So the way in which we can do this classification is very simple. You see, pressure is dependent on which quantity? Force. So if force is static, pressure is also static. If force is dynamic, pressure is also dynamic. Hope it is clear to everybody. This is already discussed in last class. I'm just recapping. Okay. Then I move to pressure measurement. The pressure measurement is actually classified into three types, and this type is based upon the range of pressure. If range of pressure is medium, it is called as okay. It is based upon pressure measure is based upon three types. One is medium range pressure, low range pressure, and high range pressure. Then I move to the presentation, right? So in that presentation, going to start here. You see, in that, am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In that presentation, I have shown you with the help of this slide what is the meaning of pressure. Then I have taken you to the units of pressure. Pressure unit, 1 atmospheric pressure can be written as 14.7 psi at sea level, and so and so on. Then after that, so this information I have given, the meaning of this particular information is, we use, you might have seen when we go to a petrol pump on a side, there is one air boy available who fills our vehicle tires, right?
Yes, sir.
With air, right? So they have some gauge, right? So that gauge actually measure the pressure using this particular formula. So all gauges value can be converted into absolute pressure value by adding or subtracting a reference pressure called as atmospheric pressure. Remember this thing. Hope it is clear to everybody. In industry, we measure absolute pressure, and this value of absolute pressure is measured or calculated like this. We take atmospheric pressure, which is constant, and then we add that atmospheric pressure to the value coming from the gauge pressure and get absolute pressure. If suppose sometime what happen is, we try to measure very low pressure, in that case the gauge value will be below atmospheric pressure. Then in that case the value of absolute pressure formula will be P atmospheric minus gauge pressure. Hope it is clear to everybody. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. After that, I have shown you this tree. This tree shows that the medium pressure measurement will go from 10 to 10 to the power 8 pascals. Low will fall in the range a few torr or a few micrometer. High pressure covers the range above medium value. After that, I started going into the medium pressure measurement. So this is the tree of medium pressure measurement. With the help of this, I try to explain you how medium pressure can be measured. Medium pressure measurement can be done based upon the classification of pressure. So if pressure is static, we use these means. If pressure is dynamic, we use these means. Hope it is clear to everybody. Yes, no? This is recap, okay? All recording is available. So if pressure is static under medium range, we take the help of manometer to measure static pressure. Okay. Now, if pressure is dynamic, then we use force summing element, which is also called as elastic element, to perform force measurement, pressure measurement. And this category of pressure is called as dynamic pressure, right? अब इसमें क्या करेंगे हम एक element use करेंगे. We use one element. The element can be diaphragm, the element can be below, the element can be burden tube. So that I have covered in last class. Hope it is clear to everybody. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now we will continue from there. Okay. So Remember, I told you we can learn pressure based upon the range of pressure. Okay, and we started discussing about medium pressure, and we have seen that it can be measured if it is static using U2 manometer. If it is dynamic, if it is dynamic, then it is called as pressure measurement by transduction method. Hope it is clear to everybody. I am repeating this. If range of pressure is medium and if type of pressure is dynamic, then the corresponding method which measure pressure for that particular category is called as transduction method. Abhi kya, what is transduction method? I am trying to explain you. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In transduction method, instead of having one transducer, we have two transducer cascaded like this. The job of first transducer is to transform pressure into intermediate quantity, right? And the job of transducer 2, which is called a secondary transducer, its job is to convert intermediate quantity into measurable quantity. Please write down this in your notebook. Write down. Pressure measurement by transduction method. Write down. First point. For this, we need to use the block diagram shown in figure. For this, we need to use the block diagram shown in figure. Is it over?
Sir, 1 second.
Yeah. For this, we need to use the block diagram shown in figure. If it is over, please raise the slogan. For this, we need to use the block diagram shown in figure. Is it over?
Sir, block
Yes,
diagram
sir.
we are copying, sir.
Yeah, please. Can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Next point. It consists of two transducers, transducer 1 and transducer 2. In bracket write down primary and secondary respectively. In bracket write down primary and secondary respectively. Full stop and continue.
Sir, it consists of two transducers.
Transducer 1, comma, transducer 2. In bracket write down primary, comma, secondary respectively. Close bracket.
Yes,
Full
sir.
stop and continue. The pressure under measurement is applied to the pressure under measurement is applied to primary transducer. The pressure under measurement is applied to primary transducer, which transform it to an intermediate quantity, which transform it to an intermediate quantity. Full stop and continue. The intermediate quantity is then applied to transducer number 2. The intermediate quantity is then applied to transducer number 2. Transducer number 2, whose job is to transform this quantity into measurable quantity. Whose job is to transform this quantity into measurable quantity. This quantity into measurable quantity. Hope it is clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, next. So you see, now we have seen what is pressure measurement by transduction method. So the methods available to perform transduction operation are listed here. First method is strain gauge method. First method is strain gauge method. Second method is potentiometer method. Third method is LVDT, linear variable displacement transducer. So can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now I am into first method of first method with the help of which we can perform pressure measurement by transduction method, and that method is strain gauge based method. So it's very simple. Remember, I told you the pressure under measurement is applied to primary transducer, which convert pressure quantity into intermediate quantity. Keep that thing in mind. You see here, we have a below that we have discussed in last class. So this below get the application of pressure, and this below perform pressure into displacement conversion operation. So here, what is intermediate quantity? Please answer to this question.
Displacement.
Great. So here intermediate quantity is displacement. We all know that. So this displacement causes some vibration. Agree or not?
Yes, sir.
So this vibration will be applied on this strain gauge. We learn this thing in unit 2.
Yes,
Then
sir.
what happened? The strain gauge makes some changes in the resistance of it, which we can very easily measure with the help of Wheatstone bridge. This is the story. You need to use this figure and you need to write this information. In this method, a strain gauge is attached to the pressure sensing below. This is pressure sensing below, to which strain gauge is attached. When pressure is applied to the below, the strain gauge is strained. Agree? Yes, no?
Sir. Yes, sir.
This causes a change in resistance of the gauge, which we can measure with the help of Wheatstone bridge. Hope this method is clear to everybody. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now moving to
Sir,
second.
copy. We will copy.
No. This I am sharing. You can use it.
Okay, sir.
This I am sharing, right? Yeah. The thing which I am not actually including in the presentation, that I will dictate, right? So is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Pressure measurement by transduction method 2. This can be done with the help of potentiometer. So we all know what is potentiometer. Potentiometer is a device which convert displacement into electrical signal. Agree or not?
Yes, sir.
That we will use. Acha, if somebody asks you a question, what is primary transducer in this? Then what is the answer?
Belows.
Great.
Yes.
हाँ ये भी एक पॉइंट लिख देता हूँ मैं. इसमें ट्रांसड्यूसर 1 is what? is bellows. Transducer 2 is what?
Strain gauge.
Right. Similarly here, what is transducer 1 here?
Potentiometer.
No, 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 no. What is this? This is diaphragm. We have studied this in last class.
Yes, sir.
Carrier is also shape. This is diaphragm. This is acting as primary transducer or transducer number 1. Correct?
Yes, sir.
The job of this is to convert the applied pressure into displacement. So this displacement is actually applied as input to potentiometer, whose job is to convert potential displacement into
Electrical signal.
electrical quantity. So potentiometer is what here?
Second
Transducer
trans.
2, secondary transducer. And diaphragm is what? Primary transducer or transducer number 1. Hope it is clear to everybody. I just read the
Yes, sir.
text. In this type of pressure transducer, the pressure is converted into displacement by using suitable sensing element like diaphragm, burden tube, whatever. Right? So this displacement controls the position of the sliding contact, which is actually applied on the potentiometer. And we all know that the magnitude of output voltage of potentiometer directly dependent on the position of the wiper. Hope it is clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, second method is covered. Now we are into third method. Third method is with the help of LVDT or inductive type of device. Here in this case, what we will do is we use again the primary transducer as the elastic element, right? Which in this particular case is what? Burden tube.
Golden tube.
Burden tube. Burden tube is playing the role of primary sensing element,
LVDT.
a primary transducer. A transducer 1 बोल दीजिए आप इसको, whatever you want you can call. Okay, this displacement is actually, you see, this is our LVDT setup. Already we have seen this thing, right? This is LVDT. LVDT is having in between the transformer, there is a space in which we are keeping a core which is actually cutting the magnetic lines of force created by this setup of LVDT, and accordingly the EMF induced in the secondary winding that we are using in order to convert the displacement into that particular value. Okay, so story is like this. LVDT is secondary transducer and burden tube is primary transducer. So what is intermediate quantity over here? What is intermediate quantity? Displacement only.
Displacement.
Displacement. So pressure is converted into displacement. This displacement is getting converted into electrical signal. I'm just reading the text. To measure the pressure with the help of this setup, the pressure is first converted into displacement, right? Using a suitable elastic element. In this particular case is a burden tube. This displacement causes movement of magnetic core of LVDT. This displacement causes what? Movement of magnetic core of this LVDT setup. So initially when there is no pressure, what happened? The core is at center place and create equal amount of magnetic field or EMF in both the coil. So output voltage will be 0. If displacement is actually causes and move the core down, then the down coil will get more EMF and accordingly output voltage will be indicating the displacement value. Hope it is clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this covers our first topic of discussion, that is nothing but dynamic pressure measurement with the help of elastic element. So it actually consisting of two blocks. One is primary transducer block, another one secondary transducer block. Primary transducer block is converting pressure quantity into intermediate. Secondary transducer is converting intermediate quantity into measurable quantity. So our syllabus mentioned these three methods to perform this transduction method implementation operation. First is strain gauge, second is potentiometer base, third setup is LVDT base. So we have seen with the strain gauge method using this slide. We have seen potentiometer based method using this slide. We have seen LVDT based method using this slide. Hope it is clear to everybody. Yes, no.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now recall the thing which we learn in unit 1. What is the difference between measurement and calibration? What is the difference between measurement and calibration? Many times I told you, I will repeat once more because that is needed as the input to discuss this particular topic. So remember I told you the only difference between measurement and calibration is, in case of measurement the intention is to find out the unknown quantity, and in case of calibration the intention is not to find out the calibration but to find out error in the measurement, right? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
अब मैं आपको एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल लेता हूं. Suppose consider the case of petrol pump. What is the instrument which petrol pump make use of? A flow meter, right? To measure
Yes,
the
sir.
quantity of or the volume of petrol, right? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Huh. If suppose we want to buy a liter of petrol, what we will do? We take the help of a gauge which shows that 1 liter of petrol is moved through a cross section of pipe. If suppose an inspector or quality check people or the quantity check inspector want to perform the same operation, what he will do? He will ask the boy, the petrol pump boy, to give the 1 liter of petrol from his gauge, and what he will do is he carry his own gauge, and that gauge will be actually trying to cross check whether the meter available with the petrol pump is really doing correct measurement or having some tamper in it. So in that case also he will take the help of measurement method only. But what is his intention? His intention is to find out whether there is any error in the measurement of quantity of petrol is there or not. Do you agree with me or not?
Yes, sir.
Huh. If that is clear to you, you can understand this particular method, which is actually called as a method to calibrate pressure instrument, right? So this particular topic is nothing but calibration of pressure gauge. लिख लो अपनी नोटबुक में, एग्जाम में पूछा तो ये लिख देना. If suppose it is asked to write about calibration of pressure gauge, then you need to discuss this thing. So I make you to understand what is calibration. Now I am introducing a method with the help of which we can do calibration of pressure gauge. ये method का नाम क्या है बाबा? Just read this thing. Please read this.
Deadweight tester pressure.
Pressure standard. Deadweight tester. So it can also be called as pressure standard. इसका काम क्या है? What is his intention? His intention is to find out bugs in the existing or the conventional methods or conventional gauges available, right? मान लो आपके जो एयर बॉयज रहते हैं ना, उनके पास एक गेज है, वो आप कैलिब्रेट करना चाह रहे हैं, इसके अंदर कितना एरर है, दैट यू वांट टू फाइंड आउट. ओके, आर यू रेडी फॉर दैट?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, क्या करना है मालूम है अपने को? ये गेज है. दिस गेज विल बी शोइंग द प्रेशर. सो व्हाट वी विल डू इज, सो वी एक्चुअली वांटेड टू चेक वेदर दिस शोज करेक्ट वैल्यू और नॉट. तो इसको क्या करेंगे बोलो तो, वी ट्राई टू अप्लाई a amount of pressure which is looking to be, or which is looking to be perfect in the ideal condition. So what we will do is, we create a mechanism of creating a known value of pressure. Suppose we made a mechanism of creating 35 psi of pressure, right? Suppose we made a mechanism of creating 35 psi of pressure using this particular setup. ये क्या setup है मैं भी बताऊंगा. If suppose the gauge which is under calibration is also showing 35 psi, तो हम क्या बोलेंगे? It is all good, quality check. Hope it is clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
हाँ. Suppose we want to check little high value of pressure, 40 psi डाल के देखेंगे अपन 40 को भी सही बताता है या नहीं बताता. That we want to check actually. Then again we create a mechanism of 40 psi pressure. If suppose the meter is again showing 40 psi of pressure, तो हम बोलेंगे this is again cleared the another test of calibration. Hope it is clear to everybody. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
हाँ. So what is the requirement over here? We have this gauge which we want to test. The requirement is, we need to create a mechanism which create ideal pressure, right? Or perfect pressure or standard pressure. So for that we use a setup called as deadweight tester. The deadweight tester setup is based on Pascal's law. So this setup is actually a closed loop setup in which a compressible fluid is available. What is available? A compressible fluid is available. We all know that according to Pascal's law, in a closed loop, if suppose the loop is filled with incompressible fluid, then the pressure applied in all direction will be equal. समझ में आ रही है बात? Is it clear to everybody? Yes, no? Hello, is connection is there or lost? Hello?
Yes, sir.
ये बात समझ में आई बाबा आपको? ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Suppose we have a closed loop in which we have incompressible fluid, right? And we know that in a closed loop, if the loop is filled with incompressible fluid, if we apply the weight on it, then it exerts force which is equal amount in all the direction. So using this Pascal's law, हम क्या करेंगे बोले तो, here we apply the standard weights. Because of it, what happened? It create pressure in all direction equally. So on the other side of pipe, we just open the knob and connect this gauge under testing. And suppose 3 weights are, sorry, okay, 3.5 weights are, not 3.5, okay, some X weights are needed in order to create 35 psi of pressure. Then we apply that weights over here. If suppose X1 weights are needed in order to create 40 psi of pressure. Then in second case, we apply X1 amount of weights. First case, we apply X amount of weights and we are getting in all direction 35 psi of pressure. And if suppose we the connected gauge is also showing the 35 psi with the application of this much weight, and in second case also it is also showing the same value, then we can say that it is quality check meter. So deadweight tester is calibrated. That in deadweight tester a calibrated weight is applied, which just now I explained you, to create pressure using this formula. Pressure is equal to force per unit area to a device under test. Hope it is clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with this I stop today's discussion. We will continue the remaining thing in next class. Maybe tomorrow. The unit 5 will be over. After that I will give you a few